Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So we're going to my core plays for week 8 of the NFL season over on Draftkings. Also posted a bunch of other content throughout the week if you want to check that out as well. And also if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I really do appreciate it. And if you want to follow me over on social media, the handle's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And if you want some more content over on Patreon, that is always much appreciated. You get access into the entire NFL DFS data sheet, and you can hop into my Discord chat as well. Links down below for that. But wait until the beginning of the month. I know a lot of you are probably watching this on the 31st, which happy Halloween, by the way. But if you are interested, wait until November 1st, because that's the best time to sign up. But without further ado, let's dive right into today's video. Alright, I don't think there's any surprise here with my first core play of the week. I have been just banging the Kareem Hunt drum all week long, but $6,900 versus Las Vegas Raiders. He is one of the best plays on the entire slate, and I actually think he should be close to the 8K range this week. I love this price tag on him. I love the matchup, and this Cleveland game is supposed to be one of the worst weather games on the slate. There's a ton of games that are going to be affected by wind and rain on this slate, and the Browns looks like they might have the worst one of them all. We're talking 25 to 35 mile per hour sustained winds throughout the game, with 45 to 50 mile per hour wind gust as well, and some rain on top of that. So not going to be the best game environment to pass the ball. So I would expect a lot of Kareem Hunt here, and they're a team that likes to run the ball anyway. They like to keep the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hand as much as possible, to be honest. So Kareem Hunt, I'm expecting around 20 to 30 touches from him here, and he's one of the more talented running backs in all of football. And he draws an absolutely fantastic matchup versus the Las Vegas Raiders, who have been one of the worst teams versus the run so far this season. And the Browns have a decently high team total as well. Now, it has came down throughout the week, and I have to assume that is due to the impending weather that people are expecting to happen in this game, because this game was at around 52.5 or 53.5 points when it opened up earlier on the week. That is now down to 49.5. But the Browns are still 2.5 point favorites, and they have a 26 point implied team total. And I think Kareem Hunt's going to be a big part of that. And like I mentioned already, this is a fantastic matchup versus the Raiders. They're 29th DVA versus the run, allowing 32.9 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is second most in the league. Well over a rushing touchdown, nearly 100 rushing yards per game, and they're getting killed through the air as well. And we know Kareem Hunt is a capable pass-catching running back, and they're averaging 7 catches allowed per game and over 60 receiving yards per game to running back. So Kareem Hunt, this is a smash spot for him. I'd be interested in him if he was nearly $8,000, so below 7K. I think he's just an absolute lock in this slate, and I'm expecting a pretty big game from Kareem Hunt here. And then core play number 2 is probably another non-surprise here, but Keenan Allen at $6,200. I loved him last week at this exact price tag, and what does he do? He gets 125 receiving yards, double-digit targets, and had a fantastic game, around 25 DraftKings points, and I think we see something similar here once again versus Denver. It's a little bit of a tougher matchup versus Denver compared to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but even then they're not that great versus wide receivers. They are 9th DVA versus the pass, which is actually pretty good, but they are allowing nearly 40 DraftKings points per game to the wide receiver position, which is 19th in the league, and over 160 receiving yards. And his rookie quarterback, Justin Herbert, has looked absolutely phenomenal his first few games to start his career, and I don't see why that trend won't continue here. And Keenan Allen's obviously his number 1 target, and he's getting heavy targets each and every single week. I know versus the New Orleans Saints in week 5 he only had 2 targets, but you got to keep in mind he got injured in that game, but still in like the drive he played, he caught all 2 of his targets for a touchdown. He's been just playing very, very well with Justin Herbert at the helm, and his numbers so far this season just in terms of volume have been excellent. A 31% target share, a 68% weighted opportunity share, 10 targets per game. And you also got to keep in mind that game that he left early does count on these stats, so they would be even higher if you take that out of the equation. And we saw a game where he had 19 targets, I believe 13 targets. So Keenan Allen, we should expect double-digit targets here. He's a little bit too cheap. His quarterback looks phenomenal, and it's a good individual matchup as a wide receiver versus Denver. So Keenan Allen, I have a hard time seeing him not pay off this price tag. And then the third core play here is Jamaal Williams at $6,100, which is definitely a price increase from what we saw last week when he was the bare minimum of $4,000 for running backs. But Aaron Jones is out once again, and even though the price did come up, I still don't think this is enough for the RB1 in the Packers offense, which has looked pretty darn good this season. Aaron Rodgers is playing on top of his game, and that in whole has made the Packers offense playing pretty darn well, and they have a great matchup versus Minnesota. I mean, this entire Packers offense should have a pretty good day. Now, the only thing that might stop them is that this game is looking pretty rough in the wind department. It's one of those games that's going to have weather, and this is making me want to target their running backs in this game a little bit more. Like earlier in the week, I loved Devontae Adams. I loved Adam Thielen. I liked Aaron Rodgers. Now, the wind, it's going to be really windy there, over 25 mile per hour winds, and that's going to definitely hurt the passing game. I mean, there's data to back that up. The more the wind goes up, the more it hurts the passing game. I still think Devontae Adams is a fine play just because the guy's absolutely awesome, and Minnesota's secondary is absolutely brutal. and it's not like he relies on 50-yard fades all game to pay off his salary. So I think he'll be okay, but I still like the run game a little bit more for the Packers offense here, and they are decently sized favorites at home as well, and decently sized favorites at home. Sorry, I said that wrong. And this is a good matchup versus Minnesota. They are 20th DVA versus the run, allowing over 25 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is 19th in the league, over 100 rushing yards per game, nearly a rushing touchdown per game as well. And with Jamaal Williams, we should expect around 20 to 25 touches for him here, and at $6,100 on a good offense, I will take that all day. And they have a team total of 28 this week. They're 6-point favorites. It's a 50-point over-under. That was higher earlier on in the week, but the wind has shot those numbers down a little bit. But, 20-25 touches as the RB1 in this offense, I would take that all day. And the guy's good, too. He's not some scrub. The guy had a role when Aaron Jones played. So I think he's an awesome play here, and there's a good chance he probably ends up finding the end zone as well, which he did last week on his way to 21.4 DraftKings points. Jamaal Williams, I am back on the train once again this week. Now, my fourth core play here is interesting because I never had a quarterback as a core play before, just because I feel like quarterback's usually a wide range. And there's quite a few quarterbacks I do like this week, but it's going to be really hard for me to pass up Jimmy Garoppolo, especially in cash games at this price tag of $5,400. This is one of the few games on the slate that's not going to be impacted by weather. It's supposed to be sunny, and there's only supposed to be 2-mile-per-hour winds, which means absolutely nothing. So this is definitely going to be a popular game for fantasy purposes. It's also going to start at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time as well, and everyone likes targeting the late game. So Jimmy G, he's going to be hard to pass up for me, and this is a 54-point over-under game. It's only a 3-point spread, and they have a 25.5 implied team total. And man, it's going to be hard for Jimmy G not to pay off this price tag. He gets an absolutely phenomenal matchup versus Seattle. He's been one of the worst teams versus the pass this season. I know Jimmy G's numbers this year aren't that impressive. He's only averaging 202 passing yards per game and less than 1.5 passing touchdowns per game as well. And he'll be without Deebo Samuel. But this matchup versus Seattle, it's pretty much as good as it gets. They're 30th DVA versus the pass. They're allowing 30.6 DraftKings points per game to the position, which is most in the entire league. And it's an insane number, but they're giving up nearly 400 passing yards per game. Nearly 400. If you want to get specific, it's at 373 and about 2 passing touchdowns per game. So he doesn't have to do too much to hit value here at 5,400, and it would not surprise me if Jimmy G has his best game of the season. And I like his stacking options as well, and I actually like this entire game. I don't think that's a hot take or anything to like this game. It's got the highest over-under on the slate, and there's no weather, but there's a ton of good options here, and you're actually going to see one more in the next slide. But you got Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Russell Wilson, the other quarterback in this game, you got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. For the 49ers, you got George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in football. Even though Seattle hasn't been that soft versus tight ends, it's still George Kittle. I don't really care about matchups when it comes to him because he is usually better than the guy that's guarding him. Then you have Brandon Ayuk with no Deebo Samuel. He's going to be an expanded role, and the same can be said for Kendrick Bourne as well. So Jimmy G, $5,400. I like him a lot here, and he's definitely going to be pretty popular, but popular quarterbacks have been working out this season, and I think that trend continues here with Jimmy G. Now, my final core plays, I might be cheating a bit here, but I do make the rules. So I've made this 3 people here, but it's kind of a mixture. So I would say you pick whichever one you want, but I want exposure to at least one of these guys in my lineup this week because the Seattle versus San Francisco game is one of my favorite games on the slate. There's no weather issues, and it's going to be hard to not play one of these guys. So I'm going to start with Tyler Lockett. The matchup versus the 49ers isn't that great. They're not giving up too many points per game to the wide receiver position. They've been all right versus the pass this season. They're only giving up the 6th fewest points per game to the position, which is 32 DraftKings points per game. But Russell Wilson has been on absolute fire this season. It seems like either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf's going to go off each and every single week, because this is a pretty concentrated offense for the most part, and the running back situation for the Seahawks is an absolute mess. So they're gonna rely on Russell Wilson even more than they already do. And if I had to pick between Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, I'm going to go with Lockett here because, 1, he's a little bit less expensive, and 2, he draws the better individual matchup here in the slot versus Jamar Taylor. And he's actually got one of the larger wide receiver versus cornerback matchup advantages this week according to PFF. And DK Metcalf's going to be more than likely on Jason Verrett for the most part, which is actually a pretty tough matchup. Verrett's been playing very, very well this season. So I'm going to pick Tyler Lockett over Metcalf anyway, and he just happens to be a little bit cheaper. And he's coming off one of the best fantasy performances we have ever seen, where he scored over 55 DraftKings points, had 20 targets, caught 15 of them for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, I'm not expecting that again, but it was just nice to see that he has that kind of upside. And Russell Wilson is your quarterback. Good things can happen each and every single week. So Tyler Lockett, he's one of my favorite spend-up options at wide receiver this week. And obviously Devontae Adams is, but he's a little bit less expensive, $1,700 less expensive, and there's no weather to worry about in this game. And it's like getting exposure to this game as well. So Tyler Lockett, I think he's a fantastic option. And I also like the two pairing options with Jimmy Garoppolo this week and Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne. So Deebo Samuel is going to be out for this game. So these guys should see a pretty expanded role for the most part. And it's the absolute nuts matchup versus Seattle. They're giving up the most points per game to the wide receiver position, in addition to giving up the most points per game to the quarterback position. So I think this is an excellent stack this week with Jimmy Garoppolo. And they are cheap, which is even better. So they're giving up 64.3 DraftKings points per game to wide receivers, which is most in the league. Nearly 300 receiving yards per game and over 1.5 receiving touchdowns per game as well. So both Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne, I think, are fantastic options here. I think they should be a little bit more expensive. Ayuk, he would obviously be the preferred option over the two, but that does come with a price tag. He's $2,300 more expensive than Kendrick Bourne. But Ayuk, he had a fantastic game last week versus the Patriots, where he had over 100 receiving yards on 7 targets, and he caught 6 of them. And like, the guy's pretty talented too. I've actually seen him do some damage in the run game as well on some sweeps. So maybe we'll see that again with Ayuk. But love the matchup here versus Seattle, and I definitely think he's going to be a pretty good play. Then Kendrick Bourne, $3,500. He is not an exciting play, but you don't have to really be an exciting play at $3,500. I think a lot of people are going to go Denzel Mims at this price range, but I like the pairing here with Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is a great matchup versus Seattle. And with Deebo Samuel out, we know he's going to see an expanded role as well. And earlier in the season when Deebo wasn't playing, Kendrick Bourne was involved in this offense. He was seeing around 5 to 6 targets every single game, and he was putting up some fantasy points as well. And if he happens to find the end zone at $3,500, he's definitely going to be one of the better value wide receivers on this slate. And this is mainly just trying to get exposure with my quarterback that I like a lot, and Jimmy G, and just exposure to this game and exposure to this awful pass defense that Seattle has right now. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. If you don't follow me on the social medias, the handle's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you want to support my content over on Patreon, it's always much appreciated. Link is down below for that, but wait until Sunday on November 1st, just so you don't get double charged. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, comment below. If you just want to say something, comment below as well. And I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the weekend, and hopefully all your favorite teams win on Sunday.